There is a great nature protectorate in the Netherlands, the so-called Hoge Veluwe. In their northern part, deeply lain in the woods, anywhere between the cities Zwolle, Harderwijk and Apeldoorn, the painter and movie maker Nico Bulder has his house and his studio. Yet the entrance signpost points out that an artist has his domicile here. His thatched home stands completely free in the woods. For a moment I'm frightened when I approach his front door, because I am welcomed by loud yapping dogs. Nico needs his dogs for the deterrence of the wild boars, which also have their life space here. Before we enter his studio, let us take a look at the nature of the Hoge Veluwe. Let us look around in Nico's studio. All pictures which hang here are also for sale. There are all subjects of the artists, in which of course nature motifs predominate, among them animal portraits. Nico has the antlers hanging on the ceiling, found in the woods, or they were given to him. The hunting of animals he denies strictly. The mystical motifs, which show illustrations of nature beings like trolls, gnomes and elves, are his special field. Another field of activity of the artist are Indian portraits as well as paintings of the nature and the animal kingdom of Africa. By progression of this contribution, Nico will give us explanations to these pictures, but in between we will several times take a look around in the nature of the Hoge Veluwe.
This is a series of paintings. It's called The Message, and it is based on a painting with which I have started. This is White Bull, an Indian with whom I became acquainted as a medium. I painted him in 1994, and this is a kind of a channeled painting. It worked very fast. And it is actually the first of a series of 12 paintings with which I wanted to show mankind that we must handle nature differently than we have done this until today. And then I went, as it were, on a journey over the whole world with that, to show people that nature is more than just to get things out and to destroy everything only in favor of our own. This painting is White Bull, and it is a painting with the name White Bull, and he is also the Indian White Bull, and he has a white bison as a symbol. And when I had started painting it, there still were no white bisons in the whole world, and sometime I was sitting there and I thought, I need to name this painting White Bull or whatsoever. To the symbolism of the painting, the white bison and the bison himself stands for strength. This painting represents North America. I started with this, and so I go over the whole world. Until now I made altogether 10 paintings. 2 still need to be painted. These are Antarctica and Australia. Anyway, this was the first picture of the series. There is an unusual feature about this painting. A white bison was born at the moment when the picture was ready, and the white buffalo stands for that there will be a change happening in the world, and good and bad, let me put it this way, go through a kind of a bottleneck to finally arrive in the age of Aquarius.
Ik zal even een andere schilderij erbij pakken.
Ja?
Ik kan misschien beter gewoon even stoppen, denk ik.
De witte bul is al het eerste van de 12 leuk.
Ja.
Ja, zie je, dat was me niet klaar tot nu. Dat hij iets met de 12 leuk te maken heeft.
Nou, dit is... Je draait nog?
Ja, het loopt.
Dit
South
is
America.
Zuid-Amerika is...
Even South America is a region which has problems in the field of nature.
Ze noemen het de longen der aarde.
They call it the lungs of the earth, and so much nature there is decimated that the lungs of the earth become smaller and smaller. And this means finally a problem for mankind, still to be able to draw breath. This medicine man asks for respect for the life area of the jaguar and the South American symbol bird, the condor. So this painting represents South America.
Nou, dit is Afrika. En dit is
This stands for Africa.
Vraagt ook
This medicine man also asks for attention for his continent, because Africa mustn't become still darker than it is already. And there should be more respect for the animals, the elephant and the birds, and for everything, what they used to hunt there, to make bush meat from it.
Voor bushmeat, waar mensen dan...
So people stay alive by eating the animals. All this is meant purely symbolically, but even a hint, to use the nature and all this very careful.
Dit is een schilderij dat
This
vertegenwoordigt
painting represents Asia.
The
The Asian elephant and the tigers are still hunted there. The elephant is used in the lumber industry, for wood transports and similar tasks. And then I still have processed the religion with a Buddha in this.
Dat hij dus duidelijk laat zien dat in die wereld er ook respect moet zijn voor de natuur. In plaats
Even
van
here should more respect be paid to the nature, because we always just take, so we rob the nature of any survival chance with that. Especially the tigers are hunted very intensively there, and the population of elephants also goes back. And this is not what we must have here, and for what we are here, just to destroy only everything around us.
Nou, dit is Neptunus.
This is Neptunus, and of course he stands for the oceans. And at one day, when the tail fin of the whale won't appear over the water anymore, and the dolphins don't jump out of the water, then this is the end of the history for the human population, because then we get enormous problems too.
Hij kijkt ook vrij bezorgd als je hem zo ziet.
He looks also quite worried. If you look at him, there are also amply indications that we must handle nature differently than we have done this the last 2,000 years, and that we are shaken awake now before it really is too late.
Het schilderij China.
China is represented in this painting, and here you see the great panda and the small panda. Both stand on the top of the red list of the endangered species. I have added a portrait of a girl, because youth has future, and everything which comes to birth is future. The fact that these animals stand on the list is atrocious, and that this still runs in a troublesome way is yet a sign on the wall that we as mankind are still not enough busy with that. We can only be lucky with all this materialism, with the things we have in the world around us. If everything gets less and less, we also won't have a chance to survive. This is Ninut. He shows us that we have arrived at a point of no return if the ice caps melt down. The polar bears feel very bad at the moment. They are more and more driven into the narrowness. And if everything goes on this way, then we can prepare ourselves to get wet feet. So even this will be a decline. All this now isn't meant to sink in pessimism, but I as a painter would like to show that there are things where we have to pay attention, because otherwise we are not worthy of our wonderful planet, and thus of the only spaceship which we have. And then it seems to me, we really must wake up.
Omdat we anders toch onze eigen mooie planeet, oftewel ons enige ruimteschip wat we hebben, niet waardig zijn. En daar moeten we dan toch erg voor waken, lijkt mij. Nou, dit schilderij vertegenwoordigt ook religie.
This picture stands for the religions, and I have depicted it in the form of Jesus. But don't ask me how this good man must look. This also isn't important for this painting. It is that he tells us something about this, that everyone has an example function. He points out, what I can do, you also can do. He shows it by the fact that he carries the earth in his hands. He cares for the earth, and means that it is our duty to do this also. Those animals which are arranged in the universe around him shall not be species which will die out, because this means that these animals won't exist quite soon no longer on Earth. And if this happens, if this becomes a concept for the universe, it shows that we as a mankind have failed. It is up to us, the people, to take responsibility, to let these animals cohabit together with us on this planet.
Rusland.
Russia.
En Rusland is ook een land met een historie.
Even Russia is a country with a story.
Vrij makkelijk
There you
zijn
can get rid of your waste quite easily.
Zoals in Siberië wat ze doen.
They do it with the oil pipelines, which cause leakages, which results in environmental catastrophes, or they dump nuclear waste in the sea in Siberia. They don't care if the bear and also the wolf still have their life space, and this also must be respected anymore. This is an area in which in the end it all becomes still worse and worse, too. Well, Russia is also included.
En dit is een schilderij, is nog niet helemaal klaar. En dat is Indonesië. En daar
Indonesia.
hebben we dus
This painting is still not quite ready. It stands for Indonesia. Here we have this enormous woodcut, which removes much nature, and many animals come into distress like the orangutan or the clouded leopard, which is a very rare species there. In addition, there are various kinds of birds which are threatened, and if we still want to look into the eyes of this Javanese, we must notice anyway that we must look out and pay attention that the situation doesn't escalate still further than it has already happened, because we then just get problems too. And this isn't all meant negatively. It goes about that we finally need to wake up and think about it, if this is to solve anyway, because it is really 5 to 12 now. 2 paintings still are in work, Australia and the Antarctic, but these then come another time. This here is a quite dear friend of mine. It is Snotty.
En Snotty is een van 3
Snotty is one of 3 brothers who live here in the woods around my house in which we live. One calls Snotty a snotgurk, that is snot-nose. This is a kind of troll which originally existed in Sweden. I personally don't know him, but anyway I could paint him. In a story which I have written, he still has a brother. This story still is not yet published, but this will last a while. And this is his brother, Prattle.
Dit is zijn broer, even kijken, je hebt Pruttel en je hebt...
Just let me look. There is Prattle, and there is Puke, and he is the oldest of the 3. This is Puke. I still must paint Prattle. This one here represents the red deers. If red deers fight with each other, he takes care that this happens in a fair way. The one who is responsible for the wild boars is Snotty. He primarily tries to find out why people shoot animals and why people love to kill animals. This stick, which he has here, is the stick of wisdom, and with a ritual he can turn the stick into a kind of medium, so that he can ask him questions.
En dat hij op deze manier dus informatie kan vragen die hij hard nodig heeft in...
This way he can achieve information which he urgently needs for his own wisdom. One also sees a small fairy on the painting. Snotty is very fast irritated, very fast angry, and if he gets very angry, green snot comes out of his nose.
Dat zijn allemaal dingen die typisch
The more angry he becomes, the more snot comes out. All this has led to his name Snotty.
3 trollenbroers die proberen erachter te komen waarom de mens zo'n in zijn ogen...
There are 3 troll brothers who try to find out why people handle nature so violently and so disrespectfully.
En hij probeert eigenlijk erachter te komen...
He also tries to discover if there are people he can approach somehow and who treat nature on another way than most people do this.
En vandaar dat hij ook iedere keer om het huis waar ik in woon, in het bos, sluipt.
Therefore he always creeps around the woods which surround the house, creeps through the house, and he looks through the windows to find out what kind of nature we are, and if we respect nature. And he also receives this information from the animals in our proximity. These are red deers and wild boars, with which he has a telepathic contact to learn what we do here in the woods, in the big hut in which we live.
En op deze manier gaat hij dat samen met zijn broers uitdenken en dan gaat hij op telepathisch...
And so he minds about this, together with his brothers, and he negotiates telepathically with the animals to find out if we are still dignified to remain living here. Otherwise Snotty takes care that we are expelled from the woods anyway. But until now he accepts us completely, and he actually is a good friend. A wonderful thing is that my son, when he still was little, has seen him once. A lady from England as well as a journalist who sat in the woods with me has seen him. But the journalist has not seen but heard him, though.
They have seen him in a physical way?
Yes.
Fantastic.
I haven't, but anyway he had an effect on me, so that I could paint him.
So he can materialize himself, but he actually is an astral creature.
Like all beings. Of course nature beings are beings on another level of vibration than this one of which we can be aware. I don't have the arrogance to say that they don't exist. But I simply know that they exist anyway. And so it was, when I went into the woods with this English lady and she had contact with nature beings. She asked the nature beings at given time if they wanted to inform me about something, and she told me that I had missed a roebuck and seen him no more about 3 months ago. I thought at that time, this roebuck is dead, and from the nature beings there she got the information that I should sit down within a week at my place, at which I always used to sit, so the roebuck should come back there. This I did, and the roebuck stood at my surprise in front of my nose. Then he came running towards me out of the blue. This was a confirmation for me that there is more between heaven and earth and in the field of the nature beings anyway. I often hear voices. I run through the woods and hear, "Look behind you, look behind you." And then I look behind me and great antlers lie there. Or I hear a command to sit down quietly because red deers come or a wild boar is nearby. These are voices. You don't really hear them, it is more an impulse which you get. So they try to make the contact. I don't have the arrogance to say that they aren't there. In my opinion, they may absolutely exist. Creek Fairy. This is one of the first paintings which I have painted. It is called Future. It is about a fairy, which shows us that if you see the creek as a symbol for journey through life, that it starts in a small stream, let's say after the birth, and if one is really in love with life, the creek becomes always more broadly and more fully a river of positive energy in the life. If it was negative, it would go back to the little stream. There is an atmosphere in the woods which I always like to see. It is a bit misty, and the sun is shining through. When I am walking along a creek in the woods, then I have the feeling that there are more fairies, just the way it is represented here on the painting.
Dan zal ik nog even een paar halen.
Dan kunnen we verder.
Oké, dit is een schilderij.
An elf looks on this painting very calmly after the red deers. It is a fantasia real.
Gebaseerd op mezelf. Als ik in het bos zit, dan voel ik me eigenlijk ook een heel nietig klein wezentje wat naar dieren zit te kijken.
If I sit in the woods, I feel also as a tiny little creature who is sitting there to look after the animals. It represents a beautiful quiet atmosphere of this, how quiet it can be in the woods without any penetration of people who make noise.
Ja, misschien zelfs wel vernietigen. Maar in ieder geval, dit is nog een schilderij waar echt...
This is a painting in which is really silence and harmony. It is a wonderful painting to look at even by the sunbeams which you see, and the silence of the red deers, who have all the time here to run in the woods.
Alle tijd hebben om hier een beetje in dat bos rond te banjeren en rond te lopen.
There is not much to tell about it. It actually stands for itself.
Dat het eigenlijk al voor zich staat wat erop staat. Dit is de dagpauwoog 11. Ik heb altijd het gevoel als je vlinders ziet dat je ook elfjes ziet.
This is a butterfly elf. I always have the feeling, if you see butterflies, you also see fairies. You can see the elf at the creek or at the pond or at a waterfall.
Waterval kunt zien. En vooral die kleuren van de vleugels, dat is typerend echt voor...
The colors of the wings are typical, butterfly wings which are needed also at fairies. In any case, it is a beautiful little painting.
Het is ja, gewoon een heel leuk schilderijtje. Dit is een schilderij met otters en 3 elfjes.
This is a painting with otters and 3 elves. If one looks quite exactly, you see that there also lies another being. Let's call it a forest monster. There are fairies which live in harmony with the otters. The otters play with each other and with the fairies. And there is also a certain quietness in the atmosphere.
Er is ook een bepaalde rustsfeer. Voor de rest, ja, als ik de elfjes schilder, dan staan ze er eigenlijk ook in no time op.
If I paint the fairies, they are on the canvas in shortest time. I don't know how a fairy looks, but this goes simply very fast. Once I had to do it with somebody who could perceive fairies, and I tried to make a fool of her. I made 4 paintings with different elves. Sometime I had the paintings ready, she came to look at them, and I had painted a fairy inspired out of a fashion magazine where a girl was shown in a swimsuit.
Uit een modeblad waar een meisje in een badpak zat. En die heb ik nageschilderd en de rest dus zomaar...
This one I had painted and the rest after my own imagination. That person was Florence. She was a healer from England. She came and I showed her the paintings. And the forged fairy was among them, and she said, "This one is nice, this one is nice. This one here is wrong and this one is nice." She had picked out the forged fairy exactly. And this again was something for me, where I thought she has contact with elves and nature beings, and she probably gets the information. This was quite stunning for me, an eye-opener, that it is a bit different than most people imagine this anyway, and not only a fairy tale. So you participate in everything possible, and so I can paint this. And this is already marvelous for me to do. It is a painting into which you can dive in with all quietness, and a marvelous feeling as it were. But do not remain too long underwater.
Not riding, okay.
This is a painting with the fairy which quietly sits down. One almost should think that they all sit down quietly, but here is of course an interaction, a conversation of the fairy with a unicorn, which comes over the water. Completely painted in quietness and harmony again. There is absolutely no influence of human activity here. It is a painting where you can come completely into quietness, sit down and have a look at it. If you hang this over your bed, you will be able to sleep marvelously. Besides that, I have used rather bright colors to show this lovely atmosphere of harmony. It is a marvelous painting, yet during painting.
En de groene plek is de derde oog?
Ja, dat moet het wel voorstellen.
The green spot is the third eye?
Well, yes, this it shall be, the third eye. This is actually the morning of awaking, and she still has closed her eyes. And one then sees the eagle, who fetches his breakfast out of the water here.
So the woman is the personification of the morning? Or how do you mean this?
Nou, ja, de zon. Vrouwelijke vorm, denk ik.
Well, I think it is the sun in female form. It is the awaking of the earth, and I found it nice to use a face for this. But the whole meaning. Sometimes they say, the artist means this with that, or the artist means it with that. But sometimes even the artist doesn't know what stands on the painting. I wanted a female face with the third eye in form of a precious stone, and with the eagle which comes flying up there. It is the beginning of the life, doing again an action to eat. It is the awaking of the earth.
Ja, het ontwaken van de aarde, zeg maar. I
call these little men the fur gnomes because of her fur hats and vests. Here they are in conversation with a woodcock. I don't have any idea about what they are talking with her. I had painted a woodcock first and found it a little bold, and thought to me, I put some nature beings upon this in the form of fur gnomes, so I used to call them. They probably have to tell the snipe something important. This could have something to do with hunting, because fur gnomes don't like the hunting at all. Anyway, these are nature beings who have contact with the animal kingdom, in this case with a woodcock.
Contact hebben met de dierenwereld, de zichtbare dierenwereld, in dit geval een houtsnip. Nou, dit zijn dezelfde bontkabouters weer.
These are the same fur gnomes again. They are in the conversation with a roebuck, to which they point out something.
ga niet die kant op, want er zit een jager.
They
of een
probably
stalker,
tell
of in ieder
him,
geval iemand
don't go this
die
way. There is a hunter or a poacher. In any case, someone who wants to kill an animal.
En de anderen zie je ook kijken naar die
And you
kant.
see the others looking into this direction whether the big enemy isn't already visible. I think they make clear, pay attention for your life, go away from here. And so these two little men run through the nature to show all animals what is the best for them. Very nice little men.
Ja,
This is the Indian bull, not white bull. But this Indian also has lived. I don't know exactly when and where, but he probably was a Lakota Sioux.
Een Sioux-Indiaan ook was, of Lakota. In ieder geval is dit een opperhoofd geweest van een stam.
In any case, he was the head of a tribe which was very bold. It is again the symbol of the bison, which stands for the strength, and from this they borrow their strength to be a strong Indian.
Ja, een sterke Indiaan te zijn.
Then there is another painting, an Indian girl with a lynx. It is a little painting, which I have no longer here, and an Indian with an eagle.
Even kijken, wat had ik nog meer? Een Indiaan met een...
A portrait of an Indian, and an Indian with a wolf portrait. These paintings stand on the web page. These are some Indian paintings. In future I probably will paint more Indian motifs.
In de toekomst ga ik er waarschijnlijk wel wat meer maken, maar het is op het ogenblik allemaal Afrika wat ik aan het schilderen ben. Zo. Dit is ook een Indiaan, zomaar een...
This is also an Indian, simply a Fantasia Indian with his symbol. This is Bold Eagle, the brave eagle. He welcomes the light, therefore the light shines on his hand.
Ja, zon is natuurlijk voor Indianen.
The sun was very important for Indians. It actually is it for all of us. For the Indians so far, that everything will grow and flourish in springtime, and that everything comes to life again, so that they can use it to keep themselves alive.
Zichzelf in stand houden. En dit is ook een opperhoofd, denk ik. Het is eigenlijk een fantasie.
I think it is a chief. Actually, it is a fantasia. It could be a Sioux. They often have these protection vests made from bone to protect the body against the arrows of other Indians.
Nico Bulder has his representation under www.nicobulder.com on the internet. There are also additional illustrations of paintings which can be found here and a selection of video recordings which he has put on YouTube.